Good morning to everyone. In this lecture, EC 8791 Embedded and Real-Time System, Department of Electronics and Communication Engineering, 7th semester. In previous session, we have discussed the real-time embedded system, that is the structure of the real-time system, and also the how to estimate the runtime systems. Then what are the task assignment and how to use schedule the algorithm. Then how to identify the fault and detect techniques and reliability. So in this session we are going to discuss the test techniques, that is program validation and testing. So here the test is a different category, that is a different type of testing category. So first one is a test planning. The purpose of this activity is to be identified by the characteristics or quality attributes of the software to be tested, the region which they are to be tested, any characteristics not be tested, and the software elements that are to be tested, also resources, that is a personal and tools, etc., will be allocated to each of the tasks to be performed, and the testing technique to be used will be selected. Then test design. For each test identified in above activity, the selected testing technique will be applied and generated test cases will be identified. So the three test case specifications for each generated test cases, then elements it affect must be identified, and both the test required to execute the test cases and expected output and resources required to run the test case must be specified. Also the test cases will be in order to depends on the how they are to be executed. So next one, test procedure definition. For each generated test case, the step to be taken to correct execute each generated test case must be specified. Then the test procedure execution. Each generated test case will be executed according to the associated test procedure definitions. Then the analysis of a result. For each test procedure executed, the version of the software elements involved in the test, as well as the characteristics of the environment in which the test was run must be referenced. A description will be given of test execution, that is author, test starting and test finishing time, as well as the result of the test, it is success or failures. Now what are the technique for functionality to validation that will be presented here? First one is a black box testing, it is also called a functional testing. And the second one, equivalence classes and input partition testing. And the fourth one, boundary value analysis, error guessing, white box testing, and control flow analysis, data flow analysis, and consequence diagram. Here the black box testing, it is one of the functional testing, equivalence classes and input partition testing. So the idea behind equivalent partitioning is that the testing is more effective if the tests are distributed overall the different possibilities rather than testing similar possibilities. The input values which are treated the same way by the software can be regarding as being in some sense equivalents. To choose the good test cases, it is better to choose one from each equivalence partition than to choose all from one partition. This basic philosophy can be applied at different levels of testing. It is a probability better to execute each menu option once, that to leave the some unused and concentrate all testing on only a few. This must be taken with a grain of salt, because in some cases it may be better to do the reverse, For example, if only a few options are critical to user and testing time is severely limited, then the boundary value analysis, the value of lies at the edge of equivalence partitions are called boundary values. One of the most common type of core error coding is the boundary value of error equivalence partitioning is to be the out by 1. In addition to choosing one value from each partition, choose value 1 each size of the portion boundary. The boundaries in the examples are where the invalid partitions meet the valid partition. One boundary is where the invalid partition meet the valid partition. One boundary is between the 1 and 0, and the other is between the 99 to 100. These boundary value is -1, 0, 99 and 100. It can be determined whether the processing is correct for the boundaries. If the loop control is out by 1, then for example 99% must be regarding the invalid. So the testing, that is a domain testing, is the formalization of the type of partition strategy. The boundary value analysis is most equivalence partitioning, since any value in partition is regarding as equivalent valid test cases for equivalent partitioning. Now we can move to the white box testing. It is a structured basic testing. It control flow analysis. The control flow techniques are based on the internal control of the software. Although the function of the software is used to determine whether what the predicted outcomes is for a given input. So the choice of the testing cases is driven by looking inside the box and choosing the test in terms of exercise the required part as a control. So the control flow testing is more effectively used as way to evaluate the effectiveness of the functional testing, and it by analyzing the structural coverage gap as have been identified. Then control flow technique are used to drive the test cases to exercise the part of the control which can not yet had been executed. Next, the data flow analysis. The data flow testing is concerned with the happens to element in a program. A variable is defined when a value is stored in it, such as the assignment or read or input operations. So the definition is not the same as declared when the variable name without a value is made known to compile, although some declarations are also definitions. A value is used when the value determines some processing, such as the condition of if statement, or when it printed or output. The tests are derived so that the adjective definition used association are executed by the test cases, or executing the test cases are evaluating to determine the coverage achievement in terms of data flow elements. So in the consecutive diagrams, it is systematically way to organizing the combinations of the input and the outcomes into the test cases. So there are the different variations of the techniques. Some involve the construction a logic diagram using the logical operations such as and or. Then the construction a decision table. Then it causes the effect of analysis involved the examining the specifications of optionally. It constructing the Bloom network to express the effect as related to combinations of cases. It eliminates any redundant combinations and constructions. A decision table summarize the conditions and actions. So the test cases are then derived from the decision table, and it can also take the boundary condition into the account. eliminating the difference input which result in some same output, then combining for do not care entire can often simplify the cause affect the graph. So in this session we are discuss only for the program validation and testing, what is the test techniques and what are the different functionality validation testing process to be executed in real time operating system. Thank you for watching this video.